Okay, so we are almost to the end of describing how to write the paper. And this next part that I want to go over is the conclusion. And a lot of the information that I'm going to be referencing is from pages 81 to 85 in the San Diego State version of Engaging Questions. So if you'd like to see some of these ideas in writing or with a few more details, you can reference those pages for more information. So the first thing to think about is how the conclusion paragraph is like a mirrored introduction. So if you remember, I'm going to go back a couple slides, the martini glass, you have the introduction is this upside down triangle, and the conclusion is going to be another triangle, but right side up, kind of like if you look at it in a mirror. So that is going to be sort of the visual metaphor I'm going to use. So you're going to start with a reminder of the thesis statement. So that doesn't mean copy your thesis statement. A better way to do that is just say it in a different way. So if there's any place in your paper where your audience needs to be fully reminded of your thesis statement, it is in the conclusion. So you've said all you have to say, all the citations and evidence and all the points you've made in your body paragraphs. But remember, the audience has just digested a lot of information. After you presented your research and findings and ideas from different authors, the audience may make its own interpretation and come to its own conclusions about the evidence. Your final words need to clarify your conclusion. So don't make the mistake of assuming your reader will necessarily understand what all of your evidence just proved. So this is your job as the writer, to remind them of those ideas. So often the first sentence or two of a conclusion is just a concise attempt to remind the audience exactly what your thesis was and how you proved it. So sum up the thesis, and also remember that opening your conclusion this way gives your readers a reminder of all the pertinent details from the paper, from your body paragraphs, as well as a solid topic sentence for your concluding paragraph. So that means, so you've got, after you have your thesis down, you want to remember that there is no set pattern for writing a conclusion. Just remember that the main goal is to give your readers a sense of finality about your thesis and your essay. So naturally, some readers end up with a conclusion that mirrors their introductions. So that's kind of what I'm hoping for, right? Like the pattern I'm setting here, that you have that mirror of your introduction. So that when you remind the reader of the thesis in your first sentence, you've already mirrored your introduction to some extent, of course. And then you open the conclusion with the thesis just as you close the introduction with it. In your introduction, your second step is to gradually walk the reader into your topic. Alternatively, in the conclusion, your second step is to gradually walk the reader away from your topic and back out of your paper. So you can see how that mirror pattern is going, so that you walk them in the introduction, walk them out in the conclusion. Finally, your introduction probably started with a fairly general statement and some kind of hook. True to the mirror form, your conclusion will end with a general statement or hook. So remember that, and also remember that just as the introduction needs a hook to entice readers to want to read your paper, you need to end your paper with a hook that will make them want to remember it. It is often effective to end your paper with the same kind of hook you opened with, but that's not necessary if you're not finding a good way to do that. So the reader will remember how you hooked him or her in the beginning of the paper, so ending with the same hook creates a good sense of closure and kind of continues that theme. So a good concluding hook needs to engage the readers. It needs to let them ponder the future or think of ways to confront issues in the present. Try and make an impact with your closing statement. So that's why it's a good idea if you want to use a hook. Some of these examples are using a quotation, background information, interesting fact, or a rhetorical question. So that said, if you're looking for some extra information, you can find this. I've mentioned while I've been reading this, or while I've been doing these videos, about where you can find some more information. So engaging questions, the textbook has this information. Remember that when you're looking at the examples in the textbook, that they're not for an explanatory synthesis, but most of the same concepts still apply. So this is listed, I listed on the slide as chapter 7, and in the that's what it's listed in the book if you look at the title page, but it's listed in the table of contents as chapter 4. So they're not for an explanatory synthesis, so just keep that in mind. Remember, don't model your ideas perfectly after it, but some of the things you can still use. So, and then I've also included some notes that if you do not have the exact textbook that is sold by the San Diego State University bookstore, and you bought Engaging Questions online or from someone else, and it's not specifically the San Diego State textbook, then you'll notice some inconsistencies with the page numbers. More specifically, that this chapter that I've been referencing is actually not in Engaging Questions. This is a modified textbook that's made to save money. So if you have another textbook, if you bought your textbook from the bookstore, then you have nothing to worry about. This is just a note for some people who might have bought the textbook from another source. So just keep that in mind. And if you want to reference these concepts, these ideas, you can get the book Navigating America. It's the chapter that I've been referencing is chapter 7 from Navigating America. It ends up being chapter 4 in our textbook, and you can get this chapter, you can get this book Navigating America from you can check it out for 2 hours from the library course reserves. I have the link in the PowerPoint or the slides that I've used, so you can go to that link, get the book, and find these points that are referenced if you're curious about that. All right, so I hope that answers a lot of questions and you have a good sense of how to write your essay. The next part is going to be about editing your essay.